Okay, so we're back for another episode.
Hmm.
I don't think Dia's wanting to kill me just yet.
Uh, I mean, this was 7 episodes long, man.
Yeah, you're. Just wait. Um.
I don't want to.
Okay, so here we go. Starting up with episode one, the
Okay,
dead planet of the
let
arc,
me
the
clear.
Daleks.
Can I clarify something real quick? I accidentally napped last night for like 5 hours. Got up at 3 a.m. and then Gamb was like, "Hey, you want to do this?" So here we are, and I'm chugging coffee to try to be able to do it. So,
Really, this is her fault, not mine.
I mean, yeah, but also stress and sleeping don't work together, so it's fine.
What the? Okay, here we go.
Um, So we're back in the land of the rubber hose trees and Dr. Ohio. And
Yes.
we've punched back in on the fact that there's radiation, but no one seems to notice it, even there's that giant flashing light.
Well, they've already
And
walked
they've
outside.
landed. Yes. Well, no, because they went and got ready first and then walked back outside. There was a whole thing about them getting ready and taking a shower and stuff.
That's fair, I guess.
Um, they come into this forest that looks like it's been like on fire, but it's actually petrified, I believe.
Yes.
And there's a breeze, and yet the trees don't move, and everything is like dead. And they're like, this makes no sense. Like, I guess this entire planet's dead. Um, and both teachers are like just basically afraid of where they are, and they think that the doctor just gets them into trouble after like one episode. They think that he causes trouble, and it's just like,
To be
what?
fair,
What?
they did nearly die.
Yes, but like this is their. They said it in a way that was like, he's caused so much trouble with us, ha ha ha. Those funny adventures that we've all been on, right?
I guess.
They're like, hey, we should make sure he doesn't break a leg. Susan freaks out over finding a flower, and then it's like automatically crushed. And I was instantly reminded about her lovely scream, which was great. Um, then Mrs. Wright gasps and like gets scared, and they see this like animal like sitting in a tree or something, but it's made of metal, or at least its skin is metal. And I don't think they ever explained why it's metal. It just is.
No, that doesn't come back at all, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Uh,
Um, but they mention it's also petrified. So they're like, okay, well, obviously we're not on Earth. And Mrs. Wright makes the like most, oh my god, someone help me face. Like, I'm so done with this. And I think it's just the actresses not like noticing that they're making those facial expressions, and it kind of keeps it going for me that I notice these things.
yeah.
Um, for some reason, she like just keeps being upset about not wanting to go home, and then the male teacher's kind of hitting on her, which is weird. Susan starts talking about how the doctor's forgetful and wants to work alone. And then they're like, well, the entire planet's dead, so I guess we go back. And then they instantly come across a city that is like at the 11 feet away mark from their 10. Like, they looked around for like 10 feet. And they're like, the entire planet's dead. Then they moved 1 foot more, and they're like, that's a city. Like, that's a whole ass city.
Yep.
So, so we zoom in on yet another tiny model. Um, it's the models aren't bad, I admit, but the change of focus can be really jarring, is all. Um, then Susan at some point freaks out that someone might have touched her in the jungle, screams a lot. Robert's like, "What? What did you do?" The doctor pretty much ignores her and goes, "She's a fucking teenager. Like, I don't care. Like, she's stupid." And for some reason, her being quote unquote stupid's kind of a theme in this episode. I'm not really sure why. Um,
Oh,
so,
child.
just that she's a child.
Yeah.
I, I guess they keep trying to nail down that like she's 15. I'm just like, even if she's 15, when I was 15, I got into some stuff.
Yeah, but
Like,
you did not have a normal 15-year-old like childhood.
okay, who did?
Well,
Which of us did? Who do we know that had a normal 15-year-old childhood?
Okay, thing you need to remember, family portrayals on television were not of the dysfunctional variety until Married with Children in the 80s. Before then, it was Atomic Family.
Oh man,
everything's fine. Everything's
you
happy.
just reminded me of Married with Children. Why aren't we watching that? That show's fucking great.
Shut up and keep talking about Doctor Who. Listen, I will say, like, this episode has, like, it's a great 4-part episode, but it's stretched into 7 parts, and it's unnecessarily.
Yeah, it is.
And it, like, all I could think of was, like, man, I cannot wait until we get to the 70s. Because that's when they trim a lot of the fat. Well, they trim a lot of the fat in the 60s as well, but...
So, like...
The first season has a lot of fat.
I was literally in my notes talking about, like, I just stopped paying attention at this point. Like, the cave shit. I was just like, I can't. I'm not paying attention.
You need to hurry up, because this is 7 parts, and I do not want to spend 2 hours explaining this.
No one believes her. They're like, it's a dead planet, no one touched you, and the male teacher keeps pointing at buttons that the doctor's looking at, is like, what's this do? What's this do? And then the doctor is like, fuck off, we can't go home, okay? Barbara winds up getting a headache for some reason. Because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And they give her a liquid and it cures it. The doctor's like, not too much. So I'm assuming it's like an opioid, honestly.
It was probably.
So the doctor offers them food squares, which it just tastes like whatever they want it to be if they like put in the right code. It makes me wonder if you... It made me wonder if you could punch in the flavor of like lava, that way you could learn what it tastes like.
Yeah. I'll have one lava, I'll have one coochie.
You already know the taste of coochie, do not.
Anyway, keep going. We're gonna go fast.
No, we're not going that fast. It's fine. So they all argue that they want to go home, and the doctor's like, no, I don't want to go home. So he pretends to make the TARDIS go. I almost called it a time machine. He pretends to make the TARDIS go. Okay, he makes the time machine go. Does that sound right to you?
I mean, no, but anything to get you keep going.
Oh my god.
We've got a lot to get through.
I know. So he takes out this little fluid device and he's like, this shit empty. Like, we're fucked. They're like, okay, well, we'll go to the city and get more. So they go outside and there's like this metal box in the ground and they start hitting it with a stick. Like, I don't understand what this is. It doesn't explode. So they pick it up and it's a metal box of glass vials. And they still, at this point, haven't checked the levels of radiation again, I might add, because levels of radiation can change.
Yes.
And I said that they were all probably going to die of cancer next episode, and the doctor's exhausted, and they aren't sure why, and then they decide to go into the city and split up like a bunch of fucking idiots. We see Barbara walking through hallways that are long, quote-unquote. It's a hallway with a painting at the end.
But I'm pretty sure it was a long hallway.
Okay. Well, if you say it's a long hallway, sure.
They wouldn't.
Doors are closing behind her, and she doesn't seem to notice it all. And there's even a part where she comes up and like slaps the camera, acting like the wall, and she's like, "Oh, I'm locked in." Like, "Oh fuck." And then everyone meets back up, doesn't know where Barbara is. In reality, she's freaking out and like running around in circles and smacking the walls, and more doors close around her, and then she's taken away somewhere. Like, she's obviously moving, but it doesn't really explain how she's moving. She just kind of is.
Yes.
And then the door opens, and then there's suddenly a plunger coming after her, and she screams. And then that's the cutoff for episode 1.
Huzzah!
So, yeah, we'll get through this fast enough. It's fine.
Okay, so let me So, okay, so the plunger. As I sort of mentioned a dear while we were watching it, that initial sort of plunger was was kind of like the jump scare of its day.
The children of the 60s were very innocent.
Well, okay, here's the thing. As you may have already picked up on, dear, the Daleks are a very, very, very thin allegory for the Nazis.
Who could have seen that coming?
Who could have seen that?
Oh!
So, Britain kind of went nuts for the Daleks in a really, really hyper way. Like, kids just fucking went nuts for them. They loved them.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly.
Really? Okay, I have to show you some footage of it because it's pretty fucking adorable.
Well, okay, I mean, yes, but also, like, they're supposed to be Nazis, so it's kind of half on one hand, half a dozen on the other.
It's okay. They were never portrayed as the way stormtroopers are now, of like,
no, I know.
Oh, aren't they cool? Isn't it cool to have stormtrooper stuff? It was more like everyone knew they were the bad guys, and it was like kids were playing as pretend Daleks.
Like cops and robbers.
Yeah, like cops and robbers. Like, very obvious, whereas like the stormtroopers, Disney tends to glorify them in a way that I'm really not happy with.
All hail the Overlord, Disney.
Mickey.
Mickey. Anyway,
Mifkey.
so...
Anyway, episode
2. So we cut back. There's suddenly a whole bunch of Daleks wiggling plungers when they go out the door. And they're told to follow them immediately. And Susan and the doctor go, and then Ian, like, runs off, and they shoot, like, I kept calling it a liquid because it looks like a liquid that they used as the prop, but I'm assuming it's a laser that makes you paralyzed. So his legs just got paralyzed, and then they're like, hey, if you run away again, even though we just paralyzed you, we're gonna kill you and make that paralyzation permanent. So, very scary.
Yes.
So they get put into a jail cell, and Barbara's there. And we find out that she was in a lift, and she was just going down all these floors. They're like, we're probably like 1,000,000 miles underground. I think it was like 40 in reality, but like they're like really deep underground. And they're like, do you remember anything? Like, do you remember how we got there? Was there anything on the way here? And they're like, no, there wasn't even any furniture. And I'm just like, why does that matter?
Well, Ian immediately says that as well. He's like, that doesn't matter.
No, it just, the line got to me. She starts to wonder if they're actually machines or if there's someone inside of them. And then they kind of admit to Barbara that they got radiation sickness. Because when they were walking around originally, they saw a Geiger counter. Yes. And it was like, you're in danger, there's so much radiation, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, we've got radiation sickness. And man, I've watched Chernobyl. This is some bullshit radiation sickness.
Shut up.
This is fucking caveman politics all over again. It is!
I fucking Chernobyl this shit.
And the doctor pretty much is like, wow, I feel so bad. And we cut to the Daleks watching them. And they apparently need very large buttons to push, so all their machines have very large buttons, so their plungers can push them. The Daleks aren't sure actually why the crew has radiation sickness, and they get the doctor, and you're like, okay, why are you sick? And then, okay, so I could never figure out the name of the other people. What was it?
So, okay, they actually bring this back
I heard
years
Thal.
later. Thal.
I heard Thal. Thal. Thal or Thal?
Thal, as in Thals. Thal.
Okay. Because I had, like, Sow, and then, like, Throw, and then, like, Tal, and I was like, I don't...
They kind of bring it back in the 70s, and then they reinforce it again a little bit later in the 70s. They kind of retcon what they call the Daleks. Because I think in this one they call them the Dells or the Rels. I think Dells. Yes. But later on they end up like going, oh, that's a nickname for us. We're actually called the Carlids. Ingenious, I know. We'll get to that though when we get to
that. Okay. Yeah, you learn that the Daleks lived with the Tals on this planet, but there was a war, and that the Tals are apparently mutilated by the Dalek standards. They're disgusting.
Disgustingly mutated is the word that they use.
We cut back to the jail cell. There's so many cuts in this fucking show. We cut back to the jail cell, and the male teacher's just trying to walk around again, and there was literally a moment where I was like, man, I hope he eats shit, and then he just face first into the ground. It was so good.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, well, you need to go back and get those vials that you had because we need them. And there's this whole argument about who goes, and like the Ian can't stand, and the doctor and Barbara are like passed out from radiation sickness, and Susan's like, I'm fine. Like, I don't know why it's not affecting me so much. And then the male teacher eats shit again, trying to prove that he could leave. So they're like, okay, well, they get upset because Susan can't go because she's a child, but if she goes straight there and back home, they can get... But if she goes straight there and then straight back, they can, get McDonald's on the way home. It's fine, but only if she's good. Otherwise, we're getting only black coffee, and that's it.
Yes.
We cut to Ian, like, punching his own legs. So that he could start feeling again, and I don't really understand how that would help, but whatever. Of course, they're not going to let them use the drug. They're going to replicate it and use it themselves. And then we cut back to the jail cell from the Daleks. We cut back to the jail cell. And Barbara and Ian are talking. They're like, don't blame the doctor. And he's like, why? It's his fault, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that doesn't help. I'm like, why are we having this conversation? Just sit there and die of radiation poisoning. Like, this isn't what I'm interested in right now.
Yeah.
So we cut to Susan running through the trees, and there's a storm and lightning and stuff, and she's getting scared. And she's doing that very obvious running on a treadmill thing.
What are you talking about? She's definitely not running on a treadmill. She's running through a forest, deal.
And getting hit in the face with branches and stuff. And she comes up on the TARDIS. She's like, okay, cool. Grabs the vials. Doesn't take one, even though I guess she wouldn't know how to, because when she leaves the TARDIS, there's literally a Tal right there. And he's like, I'm going to teach you how to take these because you should have taken them the moment that you got them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this whole time when she was running, there's like very camouflaged, you cannot see me things moving in the background. So, very obviously they followed her. So... I'm trying to remember what his name was, because it was very hard to keep track of their names.
Remember I kept making jokes about it?
Yeah.
I kept saying, no, it's Aladdin.
Aladdin,
yes.
Aladdin. Okay, Aladdin. Whatever. He pretty much goes like, sorry I touched you on the shoulder, blah, blah, blah. And he gives her more medicine because he knows that the Daleks are going to take the medicine he gave her. And he also gives her his coat. This is very important. Don't forget this.
Yeah, don't forget the coat.
Daleks are now okay with giving them water, but not with keeping them alive, so I'm not really sure, whatever. We get Susan back, like, very quickly. Like, it's just a cut. And they're just like, oh, we feel better now. Mr. Aladdin fucking taught us how to take this drug. Wow. And at this point, I wrote that Barbara was exuding some real Karen energy, and I realized her shirt was on backwards, and it upset me so much. Like, the buttons were down the back of her spine.
Yes.
I also made note that I was like, the Daleks aren't as sadistic as, like, I know them to be, because they also, in fact, brought them, like, tea and food and stuff.
Well, they were prisoners.
And... but, like, for what reason?
Well, they wanted to keep them alive to figure out how long it would take for the radiation to deal with them.
But they... Okay. Sure. I also said that I like to imagine the Daleks as men on tricycles, because I know it's like shopping cart wheels that they're on, but like whenever they're moving across the floor in this episode, you can hear it, like, very obviously.
Yeah.
It reminds me of just being in a supermarket, really.
Pretty
So we learn pretty much that they take Susan for their plan, and they make her write this letter, and how they expect the Thals to agree, because if the Thals can go to peace with the Daleks, everything can get better.
Because the Thals are fucking pussies.
Yes. And
they're pacifists.
There's this whole thing about... Well, no, I wasn't saying that they were pacifists. I was just saying, like, they
say they're pacifists.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing. When they came for me, I said nothing.
That's not what I was going for, but okay. Keep going.
The Thals have this whole moment where they make a comment about how women don't know when to shut up, and then they cut away again.
Yeah, good old 60s.
So the Daleks are having Susan write this letter that they're going to use to draw them in and, like, set a trap, basically. And she's like, here, I wrote this letter. And it attaches to the suction cup, and that's how they move things. And imagining them, like you said, imagining them building a whole city with this, like, little suction cup is amazing.
It is, right?
They're like... So they look at they're like, what is this, like, last word? Like, Suzanne? And they're like, no, that's my name. They're like, this is stupid, but whatever, we'll use it. And then they kind of make note that Susan notices that they've been watching them from a camera. So they have a fight in the jail cell and rip down the camera. And the Daleks are like, no, they did that on purpose. Like, that's stupid. And so they start trying to figure out a plan how to get out and deal with the Daleks. I realized at this point, he doesn't have, what's the word? A dongle, the thing that... Deus Ex Machina. It's the thing that does... A gooba. Yeah. it does...
She just
it does whatever... Yes. It does whatever you need it to do in the situation. It's...
A gooba.
There's a word for it. I mean, yeah, that is. But...
MacGuffin?
A MacGuffin, yes. The screwdriver. There is no MacGuffin for this doctor so far.
That does not come into play until the late 60s.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, this is when I noticed that there was no MacGuffin for him. I mean, he kind of smashes some stuff with his cane. But yeah. I wouldn't call that a MacGuffin.
I mean, okay, so the sonic screwdriver isn't really a big part of Doctor Who. It wasn't until the new series where they were like, hey, let's make this a bigger part. Whereas, like, in the classic, it was like, it's barely used, and when it is used, it is purely a MacGuffin. Like, an absolute MacGuffin.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I remember, like, me watching Doctor Who, I'm like, okay, well, they're trapped. Oh, nope, cool, he's out because of the screwdriver.
Yes. But that's not invented until the late 60s, so a cane smashing a power conduit it is.
Mm-hmm. So we go back to the prison room that's now without a video, and they're like, okay, well, let's figure out how the Daleks work, and then maybe we can figure this out. So 2 of them stand by the door and watch the Dalek that comes in and brings them food. And they just kind of like inspect them and they're like, well, they have eyes on all of, like, everywhere. And we're not really sure what to do. And they see everything we do. So they're like, well, why don't we create a distraction, thereby being an entire hypocrite to everything they just said?
Yes.
So they take the mud from Susan's shoes and they take the dirt from Susan's shoes because she was outside and make a mud ball.
Yes.
They also put the coat on the ground. This is important. They put the coat on the ground.
Why do they put the coat on the ground?
So that it can't interact with the floor, because they very quickly realized that everything was metal that the Daleks interacted with. So they got their energy and power, or whatever, electricity, I guess, from the floor. As long as they were touching metal or the floor, they could move around. They're powered.
And what type of electricity do we call that?
Static.
That's true, kids.
Oh! Did you know if you rub your socks real hard on the ground, you can make electricity too?
Try it now, kids. Piss off your parents.
Shock your significant other constantly.
Cause your grandpa to have a heart attack because his pacemaker will short.
Oh, God. Okay, so they bring in the Dalek. Susan and Ian are just like taking the food or whatever. Barbara smashes its eye thing with mud so it can't see.
The technical term is an eye stalk.
It's just spinning around and like, don't touch me, get off me, like that sort of thing. And so they quickly move him onto the cape and he just powers down.
Yep.
So they're like, okay, well, they decide to put Ian inside the Dalek for a plan. So they open it up and realize there's something inside the Dalek. And they take it out in the coat and they put Barbara and Susan in the hallway so they don't see it. And they're like, y'all keep watch. They put it to the side. Ian gets in the Dalek. They're like, all right, here we go.
So I've noticed you say they take it out with the coat, but isn't the coat on the ground underneath the Dalek to prevent it from using its power to hurt them?
So they opened it up.
Yes.
I didn't really understand like why it didn't. I don't know.
Because the plot told them that it didn't.
Yeah. It opened it up and they're like, oh, there's a little thing in here. So then they move it off the coat, take the thing out of the Dalek and move it. But for whatever reason, when they take it off the floor, it doesn't get powered back up really, and the little thing inside can't do anything? Like, it...
So the little thing inside is the actual Dalek.
Yeah, I know that.
The metal casing is just the casing for the Dalek.
Yes.
Yeah, just thought you ought to know.
No, I know. And then we cut to them going down the hallway, and we go and look back at the cape, and there's like this little creepy baby demon hand that pokes out, and I was like, oh god, it's Gremlins, someone fed you after dark? Ah!
It is kind of like that. I mean, it's meant to be like a webbed hook kind of deal, but it's so small and black and white and bad camera quality that you can't really tell.
Yeah. And then that was the end of that episode. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, you kind of did like 2 episodes right there, but that's fine. We've got a lot to get through.
Yep.
So, one thing I noticed that I tried to bring up to you is that William Hartnell, the guy who plays the Doctor, he is pretty old, and he flubs his lines quite a bit. And,
yeah, he does.
One time on the set of... actually, it's the next story, but I'll say it here anyway. One time on the set of the next story, he's meant to say something like... I'll get the exact information.
Wow, not on top of it instantly.
I had it. He's supposed to say the fault locator, but instead, as a hashtag prank, he says the fornicator. just to make everyone laugh. because everyone kept teasing him about the fact that he kept messing up his lines, which gets worse the further it goes along.
Oh no!
And is the main reason why he was pushed out of being the Doctor.
Yeah, I get secondhand embarrassment from people flubbing their lines because I know when I flub things like on stream or just talking to you now, like I get embarrassed about it because I used to be pretty good about not doing that, but like I went to the hospital, a lot of stuff happened, it's fine.
So another thing that I think you'll like is that the story was originally meant to be designed by Ridley Scott.
Oh.
Yes, the Ridley Scott who later went on to direct Alien and Blade Runner. This was remember the 60s, so this is before he became big man Ridley Diddley.
I'm upset because there should be more vagina-shaped things in the show.
That is not Ridley Scott, that is H.R. Giger.
No, I thought Ridley Scott helped with the eggs. Like, he was like, make them less someone was like, make them less sexual, and he was like, nah.
Well, yeah, but he didn't come up with the idea for the whole sexual thing. That was part of H.R. Giger's fucking...
yeah. It was both of them. I still say there are not enough vagina-shaped things in the show. Period.
Oh, trust me, there will be.
Oh, God, no. I was kidding. It was a bit. I was trying to be funny. God damn it. Okay. So, Ian finally figures out how to make the Dalek work. And they continue down the hall to a lift. And they're like, hey, the overseers didn't call for these guys. And they're like, yeah, they did. And then Susan's like, you know what? I got this in her head. And she, like, freaks out, like, no! Sort of thing.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, they punch in on her face, and she does this very obvious wink, like, with her whole face. And then goes back to screaming. And I'm like, oh my God, be more subtle, please.
Well, again, camera quality, you have to make sure
that No! An easier thing to do would be to, like, pat someone on, like, the arm and, like, get their attention.
Well, she's
first.
15. She doesn't understand subtlety.
I don't care!
Okay. I see how it is.
Oh, okay, hold on. So, I want to point out that I haven't cared about typos on these notes that I've been taking, and one of my times I wrote Ian got changed to Iran. So, that's a thing.
Of course it is.
So, they, like, force her into the lift because she just kind of forced the Dalek's hand. And then the Dalek, like, when the door closes, calls them. It's like, hey, they're on the lift, like, they're coming up. And they go, why did you do that? No one wants them. So they're like, okay, well, this is an emergency. So they power down the room, and Ian gets stuck in the Dalek because he can't get out because of magnets. How do they work?
Fucking magnets. How do they work?
And the Daleks outside start laser cutting the door because they demagnetize the floor. So they can't... They demagnetize the floor so they can't take Ian with them. Even, like, pushing the Dalek doesn't work. This is completely thrown out the window later.
Yes.
But for some reason, the room is demagnetized, but the lift still works. I'm not really sure. And then Iran keeps trying to get out, right? And Susan is freaking out in the lift, like, no Dalek can stop the lift manually. For whatever reason, like, in another room. So they're just going up on the lift, and she's freaking out, like, no, we have to go save them.
Yeah.
And they make it to the top, and they send the lift back down. And then the Daleks finally break through the door and shoot Ian's Dalek, but it's empty. Oh, he got out.
What a trick. What a hashtag goof.
Hashtag punked. So, God, I don't even know how many people are going to know that fucking show. So the lift is going back up. It obviously has Ian on it. And the Daleks downstairs hit the emergency switch right as Ian's coming up, and he just kind of jumps out the elevator, like, with no issue.
Yep.
So they go, okay. And they walk over to the window, and they see all these, like, bodies moving or something. Like, what is that? And for whatever reason, during this whole period from here forward, to me it sounded like everyone was walking on glass. And I don't know why. Like, all of their footsteps were really, really crunchy.
There's probably a reason.
Okay. I can't tell if that's sarcasm or not.
Yeah, no, maybe. I'll never tell.
Well, so they see the Thals coming to get the food supplies that Susan set them up for. And they decide they have to go help them. So they try to open this door, and they notice that the elevator's coming back up. So they're like, fuck, what do we do? So they find this statue of a rock near them, and while the door is hard to move, this giant cement statue isn't. They just throw it in the elevator shaft, and it hits the elevator and makes it crash.
Makes it go boom.
Mm-hmm. For a moment, I thought I heard, like, clapping for whatever reason, but it was actually them running, and it just, like, the sound quality is just not there. And the doctor starts talking about how the Thals dying is none of their business, even though it absolutely is, because they gave them the radiation drugs, and also it's literally Susan's fault that they're going to die.
Yes.
But the doctor's just a total asshole, and it's just like, nah, that ain't our business. Like, we're just gonna stay out of it for some reason.
Yes.
I feel like it's just a running theme that the doctor's an asshole.
He kind of is an asshole in the first incarnation, especially. Second, he gets a lot better, but the first, he's kind of like a grumpy, rude grandpa who's a bit of an asshole. He gets better as time goes along, but he never really properly grows out of it.
Like a grandfather or uncle in your, like, family reunion or, like, Christmas party for your family that's, like, a little bit racist, but not, like, outwardly.
Yeah.
Like, he does very subconscious racist stuff, but then he's also like, I support building a wall, sort of thing.
Kinda, yeah. Anyway, keep going.
So, where was I? So Ian stays behind to warn them, and then we cut to the Thals walking in to find their food, and he's like, can we work peacefully, blah, blah, blah. And you see Ian in the corner listening in and not saying anything, even though he literally was like, I'm gonna go warn them.
Yep.
And he runs in at the last second, is like, it's a trap, run away! And then they just literally kill the leader of the Thals. And I believe they paralyze another character, and they walk him out, and they try to paralyze Ian, and it doesn't work. And it hits the wall, and it just looks like an 80s trip fest. Honestly.
Well, the 80s haven't happened yet.
Well, no, I know, but it just kind of reminds me of that. Like, when you look at psychedelic colors moving all across, like,
Do
a
you perhaps mean
screensaver or some
the
shit.
70s?
No.
Psychedelic isn't typically attributed to the 80s, dear.
Okay, fair. I just, like, that whole 30 years is just, like, really combined for me, okay?
Oh, you have no idea how funny a joke it is to say that the 70s and 80s are combined, because that is a whole continuity joke within Doctor Who that we'll get to.
Oh, no.
No. It's a complete... It's actually really fucking funny.
Okay.
Keep going. Anyway,
Fine.
Thal's leader is dead, Daleks have ambushed them, keep going.
Yeah, so everybody gets out, and they're talking to people. They're like, this is what we do, here's some food, here's our entire history. And he's like, with this history, I could probably figure out where we are and we could get home. Blah, blah, blah. And the crew finally like gets back to the Thalls with like their injured coworker, whatever, coworker, injured other member, and they're like, "What happened? Oh, it was a trap. Where's our leader? Oh no, he's dead." So they have to elect a new leader. I almost said erect. Elect a new leader. And Barbara's entire way to heal people is to make them drink water, I've noticed. With the radiation poisoning, she's like, he needs some water. Which, like, I kind of got. But then this guy that has, like, a paralyzed shoulder, she's like, he needs some water. Like, what?
Bitch, he needs a new shoulder.
We go into how they're different from each other, so there's a war because of that. Like, they don't like that they're different. Oh! Also, at this point, I realized that all the Thalls are, like, tall white people with blonde hair.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up, but yeah, it is
kind of so bad.
It kind of muddies the whole metaphor a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Like, especially with everything that's happening right now, like, that is kind of hard to watch, if I'm honest. I don't know, man. It's hard.
It's a bit weird because I think it's because the whole point you might have missed it because it is like a really like quick line that they say, but they kind of go off on the fact that the Thalls and the Daleks actually kind of looked the same at one point, but because of all the radiation, they've been evolving at different rates and in a circular motion, and so it's like kind of sort of like muddies the metaphor of the Daleks being an allegory for Nazism when you sort of bring up, oh, but these are the real people of it, and they're like when they're not warlike, they're actually really nice people, and it's like
and they're also beautiful. They're also like supposed to be beautiful and extremely intelligent, and they're now farmers, and they're also very cultured because they kept all their history. It's just so much.
It's a bit weird. I mean, but it's not like the worst. But the thing is, you barely notice it because, spoiler alert, Doctor Who is very white. Very white.
Yes. The only reason I kind of noticed is because I was like, wow, they all have blonde hair, and I'm like, wait, they're all okay.
Yeah.
So we find out that the Thalls used to be like warriors, and then they mutated super hard and became peaceful because they're like, our planet got fucked up from war. We don't want to do that anymore. And we see that the dolls didn't always look like they did, but we still don't really know what they look like because we know that they're inside of the casing. So, and the entire crew considers making them remember how to fight for a moment, but then they're like, no, we should just leave. Like, it's fine. But, hey, guess what? The Daleks took the fluid thing that the doctor thought he could empty and be like, I want to go see the city. They actually took it, so they actually can't get home. And then that's the end of that episode.
Yes. So, oh boy.
Yes. There's a lot to unpack. And maybe the better choice is some of it we put back in the package and we put it in the back of the closet.
Yeah. So oh boy. There's a lot of changes between like the script and everything, but the guy who wrote it, Terry Nation, his agent was very, very, very smart and basically argued and negotiated to basically Terry kept the rights to the Daleks after writing the story, which turned out very lucrative for him. Because of everything that happened, like, not only do the Daleks come back numerous times throughout the show, but there's...
Especially nowadays.
There's 2 movies based on... based on Doctor Who. and the Daleks. One of which was an attempt to get Americans interested in Doctor Who back in like I forget what it was, probably the 60s.
Quick yes or no question: did it work?
What do you think?
Okay. Anyway,
so another thing is that to sort of give you a glimpse of just how insane Dalek Mania was, the first 2 episodes of this averaged about 6.6 million viewers. Then everything happened. The final 2 episodes have 10.4 million viewers. To put it in perspective, the latest episodes of Doctor Who that have just gone this season have like an average overall of 6.4 million. The season before is like
average.
The season before is like 7.9, but that's typically high when there's a new Doctor because people come in going, "Ooh, something new," and then they'll peter off as like they go, "I don't actually like this," or etc. But it is
quick offhanded question: who's your favorite Doctor? Because I'm very biased in the Doctors I know.
Well, of course you are. I have a few that I like quite a bit. I'm really partial to the 7th Doctor, partially because he's like this absolute clown but it's also like he has a very, very serious dark side that they start getting into, but then the show got cancelled and they couldn't do it, and it's but it's like he's such a great actor, Sylvester McCoy. But I pretty much like them all.
Yeah. So I was very, very partial to David Tennant, just in general. I think
Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, let me get there. But I have to admit, I believe 9 was my favorite Doctor out of all of them.
You mean out of the 3 that you watched?
4. 3.5. I didn't watch all of 4.
You did not watch the 12th Doctor.
I tried.
Everyone tried.
Yeah, everyone tried.
It was awful.
Yeah. Like I said, I watched like 3.5 of them, and I think 9 was probably my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah, it's a shame he only wanted to do 1 season.
Yeah.
He did not like it.
Yeah.
He wanted to go off and do bigger and better things, like G.I. Joe and Thor 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, Thor 2 wasn't that bad, but that's beside the point here.
It's the worst Marvel movie.
It's okay. It's not great.
The worst Marvel movie. Anyway, keep going.
Anyway, this isn't Marvel. Well, there's another show for Marvel, and this ain't it. So we go back, and the Daleks have, at this point, duplicated the drug that they were given, and they're like, okay, well, they're gonna start taking it in batches, and then they start talking about how it's obvious that the Thals will attack us, and then they instant cut to the Thals going, no, we're never going to attack them ever, like, that's not our thing.
Yeah.
And I think I legitimately laughed out loud about it.
There are some good hard cuts.
Yeah. And then the worst fucking part, okay, the second worst fucking part of this episode, worse for a different reason than the cave, but the worst part of this episode is the Doctor, Susan, and Barbara are all like, we should make the Thals fight for us so we can go get the fluid thing back. And Ian's like, we're not going to make people waste their lives for a part in our machine. He's like, but we're going to die. He's like, but you can't expect people to die for that. I'm like, why is this even an argument? It's not in the wrong here. But everyone is so mad at him. It made me so upset. Like,
well, they have to drag out the episode.
I know, but why is that even an argument? Like, you shouldn't expect someone you just met to lay their life on the line for you when they're a pacifist.
Well, you know, yes, you can. If you're British and you're in a episode that's
no. Full stop. if you're British. Full stop.
Listen, as an Australian, I think I ought to tell you the reason why Australia suddenly decided to go, hey, maybe being a slave to the UK isn't a good idea. The UK love to send other people to war, dear.
Yes.
It's a very British quality to send other people to fight for you.
Again, being British is why. Full stop. So, whatever. So they decide, for whatever reason, they let Ian go talk to them. And they're like, hey, like, you should respect yourself and protect yourself. Because at some point the Daleks are going to come up here and they're going to kill you. Like, that's just going to happen.
Yep.
And so Ian takes all of their records and is like, what if I just go give this to the Daleks? Are you going to stop me? And they're like, no.
What if
like,
I give you vinyl records to them?
What if I give them your Motley Crue record? Like, ugh. And they're like, no, we're not going to stop you. That's not who we are. I know what you're trying to do. And they're like, okay. So Ian takes a chick's hand and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go give them her. And starts walking off. And they just, like, deck him. And it's great. I love seeing Ian get beat up. It's amazing. Which is kind of funny because I think Ian's actually one of my favorite characters. But I still like watching him get decked. It's great.
I mean, you're really going to like the next episode then.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which, by the way, I feel you'll like this. The next episode is only 2 parts.
Yes! It's like a vacation.
But it's
but what?
A very psychological episode. And
is it going to be anything like fucking caveman politics?
No, it's going to be
okay, then we're good.
Cabin fever-ish politics.
It's fine. I can do cabin fever.
Okay, sure you can. You're gonna eat your fucking words when we get to it.
Okay.
Anyway, keep going.
You want to make a bet?
No. I'm just saying, keep going.
You want to we can make it interesting.
No.
Okay, fine.
I don't want to keep
fine.
This is interesting.
You just don't want to make a bet. I see how it is.
Well, partially because I know you are so spiteful that you would do anything to prevent me from winning the bet.
Okay, listen, just because you know me does not give you the right to call me out.
I know how fucking competitive you are.
So, we cut back to Daleks, and we just see one spinning in circles, not being able to control itself, and it's like tripping balls. It's hilarious. And it's because the anti-radiation drug apparently fucked them up, because they're conditioned to need radiation at this point to survive. And you kind of finally notice in the background that there's only 2 Daleks, and the rest are absolutely cardboard cutouts. It's something.
What are you talking about? They're not cardboard cutouts. They're real Daleks.
They have. Oh, yeah, they had the budget to make an entire army of Daleks. Let me tell you all about that. So they talk about exploding it on their neutron bomb to survive because they need radiation, and radiation's been ticking down slowly, like ever since we got to this planet. They've talked about this. And then we cut back to the Thalls, and they're like talking about a lake that has monsters that are mutated, and their brother was killed. And they're like, no one would attack from the lake. That's crazy. Foreshadowing. Very heavy-handed foreshadowing. Holy fuck. And then we cut back to the Daleks, and they talk about how if they can't adapt to the environment, it's okay. They're going to make the environment adapt to them by nuking it again.
Yep.
And then
that's a solution.
We'd go back to the Thal leader talking about how the Daleks are going to kill them sometime. Hold on, what the fuck did I write? How about how the Daleks are going to kill them sometime? Okay. How at some point the Daleks are going to kill them. And if they let the crew go off, they might as well get themselves killed. They might as well get themselves killed. They might as well have killed them themselves.
Yes.
Like, if they let them go off alone, like, it's literally blood on our hands. So, guess what? They decided to go through that marsh lake because it's undefended, because it's a natural barrier and the Daleks didn't fucking arm it or anything. Ha! Who could have seen that coming? And so the marsh is really bubbly, they're just like, oh no. And I don't know why I actually wrote names at this point. And I was like, Antonitis was like, I'm scared. And the new Thal leader was like, shut the fuck up. Like, don't let anyone see that you're scared. Like, shut up. And for whatever reason, Barbara came along. I don't know why. Why did she need to come along? It's fine.
Because, you know, she's gotta come along. If she doesn't, what else is she gonna do?
She literally sees a gross thing in the water 2 seconds later and kind of screams, and I hate it.
Well, if something happens and a woman in Doctor Who doesn't scream, did it really happen?
If a woman screams in the forest and no one's around to hear it, did it really happen?
If a woman screams in the forest and no one's around to witness it, did a Doctor Who episode really happen?
No, my joke almost went. Hold on.
Oh no!
Okay, fine.
I know exactly where that joke is going.
The American system is so fucked up. So we see Ian washing his face with the water, and everyone's eating around the campfire. And then Ian sees this evil starfish come up out of the water a little, and he's like, "Holy shit!" And so they're like, okay, we'll keep track of that evil starfish. Y'all get to sleep. It's fine. So they have a good night's sleep, and then someone comes by and is like, I saw something by the lake. And they go over and they look, and it's like pipes coming from the lake, which is how the Daleks get their water. I'm not sure why they need water. It's where the Daleks get their water. And it's so obviously a real scene, and it just... the paintings in this are just so good.
Yes.
And then one person goes to fetch water and gets dragged in and dies, and then that is literally the end of that episode.
I'm pretty sure he gets dragged into a coffee cup.
Yes.
Sorry, it looks so much like someone just stirring coffee.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So, as I say, any facts about this episode? Because that's pretty much where it ends. Because the next one is it's the ordeal one.
It really is an ordeal.
Yes.
I fucking knew that's where that would go. Sorry, she just sent me what the joke would be, and I knew exactly what it was going to be. So, I'm just looking at, like, the myths, and it kind of makes sense that this is one of the myths. So, Terry Nation, one of the myths around the Daleks was that Terry Nation named them after seeing Dal and E and Ek volumes of an encyclopedia dictionary, because they'd be right next to each other. He actually made up the name, but invented this as a story to tell the press, because he was just like, you know what, fuck it. It's better to have an interesting story to tell them.
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, if you have an interesting story, people want to know about it more.
Very thrilling.
So, bringing it all back to our good friend JFK, he was actually assassinated during the filming of this episode.
Uh-huh.
So they were filming it, and then he got shot.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, no, it's fun, eh?
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah. He lost his head, but he got a head.
Okay, stop.
Okay. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, so the next one is called the ordeal, I believe. And then we cut to the Daleks talking about how they want to make this neutron bomb, and it's going to take 23 days to make. And they're like, that is way too long. Like, what are you doing? And Barbara and the one of the Thals are like searching through one of the caves to see if it's a dead end. And they're flirting like super hard. Like if you haven't caught on to it at this point, like what is wrong with you?
She getting that dog dick.
She do. And at this point they're like, oh well, it's a dead end. But then she hears the sound of water and is like, wow, there's an entrance somewhere. And I'm like, how caves work? That's not how caves work at all. Just because there is water in a cave... Just shut the fuck up. I have taken you into an actual cave when you came here to see me. And we literally saw water dripping from the ceilings from nothing.
Yeah, and if you followed that water, it would have taken you out.
How do you follow it?
You know, you just do.
You just atomize and go through the rocks?
You just go off scene and then suddenly you're at the source.
Okay, fair. Just pause life, go out of the scene, and you're out. It's fun. You made it.
Pretty much. Anyway, keep going.
So they find this hole, and they're like, well, it drops like 30 feet, so we're gonna like let you rappel down. So she, quote unquote, ties the rope to a rock and pretty much tries to let him rappel, but she sucks at it. And also there's no way a tiny woman in the 60s like that could let a man of like 250 pounds probably, because he was pretty muscular, rappel. Like, I don't... There's no way.
Are you being sexist?
How?
Well, you're saying that a woman can't do it. Well, why?
No, I'm saying this woman couldn't, because she's very tiny, obviously doesn't work out, and probably can't lift 225 pounds.
Are you saying Barbara doesn't even lift?
I'm saying she doesn't even lift.
Wow.
I'm saying I don't even lift, and I know I couldn't do that.
Fair enough. Okay.
I probably weigh more than her, and I probably couldn't do that. You probably couldn't do that.
Well, I probably wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
Among other things. So she drops him by accident. He falls like 2 inches. Like, don't even worry about it.
He says the drop was 20 to 30 feet.
Listen, he falls like 2 inches.
He really does.
And they yell down like, hey, are you hurt? And apparently he's not. So I kind of just took that as canon that he actually only fell like a few inches.
I think it is.
So,
it's a bit weird, because the last time we cut to him, he's like, "This is a 20 to 30 foot drop," and then I think he keeps climbing down, and then the rope lets go.
Yeah, that's
Riveting.
because she lets him down a good amount, and then like it fucks up, because we even had a moment like, oh, he's dead, but he caught the rope like 2 or 3 times before it messed up and flew off the rock, because she doesn't know how to tie a fucking rope around a rock.
Barbara doesn't know a lot of things, okay?
Yeah, I know, and I feel so bad, because, like, I actually think she'd be interesting. She's very hard-headed,
She actually
like how
does
Donna...
get more interesting as time goes on.
Yeah, she's very hard-headed and stubborn, and, like, doesn't really take their bullshit.
Let me just tell you, you're gonna absolutely love the episode when they get to the Aztecs.
Okay. But it makes me really like her, and so it makes me really sad to see her just devolved into 60s woman, to put it lightly.
60s woman?
Yes. The you should be at home, like, don't have a job, have my children, white picket fence, sexism in the American dream bullshit, like that stuff. You know? I mean, I don't know, it is like third episode, so...
Second.
We'll get there. No, it's like the 3rd episode. We went through like 7 episodes of this. Don't lie to me.
This was in the 5th or 6th episode.
Okay, well, from there, they start talking about how it's a dead end, and they find the hole, and he falls, and they all fall through, and... Sorry, I'm rereading my notes. I said the rest of the crew continues through the caves that they found, while Thaumaturgy takes care of Barbara because he likes her. Because I couldn't remember remember their names, so I just called them thaumaturgy.
Fucking hell.
One of the guys is like, I'm scared, we can't fight the Daleks, we're going to die, and what does it matter? And blah, blah, blah. And then he gets hit on the head with a rock, and they drop some bags of flour that are colored gray, and they're, quote-unquote, caved in. So they can't go back at this point.
Yes.
The Daleks start mentioning that there's people by the city walls, and Susan, the doctor, and the new leader, I don't remember their names, I believe that's Aladdin.
Aladdin, yeah.
All walk up, and they found this box instantly, and goes, hey, I think this is the thing we're looking for. We found it instantly. And they're like, okay. And he decides to deal with the issue by just smashing it. It's just like a pane of glass, and he just like smashes the crap out. He's like, I did it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I prefer a MacGuffin or just smashing more. I'm sorry.
Coffee wearing
again,
off?
No, just talking a lot makes me tired sometimes, and this is a lot of episodes. And I'll explain to you later, but like, just remind me. So they smash the thing and then use the TARDIS box key to short circuit it. And they're like, alright, cool, whatever. And they're like really giddy about it for some reason. They're like, we're having so much fun! We did it! We messed up all their stuff! And they're like laughing, and then suddenly there's Daleks all around them. Like, they didn't even notice they were coming. There's just Daleks all around them. So, God, I got so mad at this. So we're in the cave scene.
Yeah.
And honestly, looking at my notes, it's just, person jumps across, they make it. Person jumps across, they make it. Person jumps across, they make it. Person jumps across, they didn't make it. I'm so bored. That's literally what my notes say, and I can't. It was so hard. It went on for like 10 minutes of them just crossing the stupid gap.
Understandable.
Oh my god. Like, it was very obviously stretched out, and I just hated it. So, whatever the point, we cut back to the Daleks at one point, and they all chant something at the same time, but it was not in any way the same time, so I didn't understand what they were saying.
Yes.
And then I wrote a note that I honestly didn't pay attention to a lot of the cave stuff, because it's people fakely jumping back and forth. And then I said that the one guy that didn't want to go didn't catch the rope the first time, he just kind of stared at it, and it like hit him in the face.
As it hit him in the face.
Yeah. And then he catches it again, ties it around himself, because Ian's like yelling at him like, do this, do that, we're gonna get you across, like hyping him up. He jumps. Ian pushes him.
He does not.
He pushes him!
Ian did nothing wrong. The guy jumped, and he lost his footing and fell backwards.
Okay, sure. The actor pushed the other actor.
No.
How does that sound?
No.
Yeah.
Ian did nothing wrong.
There's obviously a frame. Put it in post. It's right here on SoundCloud.
Maybe if I ever do a video version of these, I'll show it.
I still want to talk to you about that. So
I mean, I might, but I don't fucking know.
Put it in right here, just right here.
Here is the audio description. As you can see, the character is jumping, and he has landed, and the character has lost his footing and has fallen backwards over the edge as Ian has gone to try and grab him.
Actually, Ian pushed him because he was trying to help with the stunt, because he is an actor.
Ian's an actor? I thought he was a teacher.
So, he falls down, and Ian pushed him. The actor pushed him. It wasn't
Ian did nothing wrong.
# Hashtag abolish Ian.
You can't do that.
I can. We're going to replace him with many other smaller Ians.
We're going to
that
replace
better
him
take
with
care
many
of the
other
doctor.
companions that are going to do a better job.
Okay. To clarify real quick, Black Lives Matter, abolish the police. These are the things we stand for. I'm sorry that we're making these jokes, but
You're
holy
making these
fuck.
jokes. You're making these
Yeah.
jokes.
We both are. Do not.
I'm staying away from making these jokes. I'm like walking on the path and you're opening these doors going, hey, look through here. And I'm going, can we not?
So that was kind of the end of the episode, is Ian's just hanging onto a rock trying to hold up Antiditus, and that's just kind of where it ends, and no one is around to help.
Yeah, he dies.
Got any interesting facts?
Do you really want an interesting fact?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll actually enjoy this. So the response to the episodes overall were really, really high, except, quote, it definitely begins to drag around the 5th episode with a long trek through swamps and caverns that moves the plot forward by about an inch. The urgency and claustrophobia dissipate towards the end, describing the final battle as a disappointingly limp affair. Yeah, it's frustrating to me that it's a really good 4-parter spread out to 7 episodes for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just seems like it got stretched out a lot, honestly.
And sorry for talking weirdly, I'm fighting off a cold right now and trying to get rid of it.
You're good.
I'm just explaining for anyone who might be curious.
I know.
Wow, okay. Keep going.
Fine.
Final episode.
Fine. Okay. Last episode, thank God. Antonidas just decides, fuck it, I want to die, and cuts the rope and drops. And then we flash forward to the Daleks have chained Susan and the Doctor to a wall.
With magnets.
And with magnets. But that's about as far as it goes. And then we switch back over to the cave, and they're like, oh no, dirt has gotten in our campfire, and the lantern also doesn't want to work. And I just said, oh my god, I hate cave politics. And then they turn the campfire off to, like, save it, and they see a light. They're like, this is how we get out. And they crawl towards it and pull the rocks away, and it's like this tiny hole that I guess they make bigger, and they're through to the Dalek area. So the Thals kind of realize that the Doctor has been captured. And they're like, okay, well, we should probably do something, because at this point he's not coming back. We should probably go fight. And then we switch back to the Doctor, and the Doctor starts talking about how he has a TARDIS, and if they don't believe he has a TARDIS that can time travel, look at the fluid thingy, and isn't it super cool because it's so advanced? Haven't you seen this fluid thing
Basically,
full of mercury?
He just goes, look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't
Don't
you
you think my TARDIS is not complete?
Wouldn't you think I'm a man who hates everything? Yeah, keep going.
So the Daleks are like, you know what? Once you die, we're just gonna go steal it. Like, who cares? And the Doctor's like, no, you can't do that. That's not how this works. Like, no, that's just what we're gonna do. Like, you're stupid. Like, that's what we're gonna do. And then they're like, we suddenly feel vibrations, and we're being attacked.
Marky Mark and his funky bunch are moving in.
Yes, the Thals are coming in and attacking. So we see the crew that was in the cave. I actually watched The Terminator last night, so in my head it's do-do-do-do.
No, I'm singing fucking Good Vibrations by Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
I know, but like I have Terminator in my head, like watching this.
He said it was they're fucking sensing vibrations.
Yeah, okay. So so they switch back to the cave people. They finally meet up with the leader of the Thals, and he's like, hey, what do we do? And they say, we have to hide from this Dalek that's flying by, and you can very obviously hear the wheels on this one more than any other one. And it's just because there's, like, silence. It's like, okay. So, the Daleks decide to set off the bomb, and they're counting down from 100. Yes. I don't know why 100. They just picked 100.
Because it's a nice round number, and it gives the good guys enough time to disable the bomb.
Yes. That's the only reason. So, they basically start sealing off other exits, and plan on sealing off everything but floor 10, which is where the Daleks are.
Yes.
And so the crew is, like, getting under doors. Barbara gets stuck under a door trying to escape for, like, no real reason. We're seeing shots of Thals getting paralyzed or dying. I'm not really sure. And we see the rescue squad at the end of the hallway when we cut back to the room that has the bomb. And also in this same room is where the Doctor and Susan are. Yes. And they're kind of Scooby-Dooing down the hallway, going from, like, behind one thing to behind another thing. And it's hilarious because there's a part where a Dalek just, like, drives by and doesn't see them at all.
Yeah, what are you talking about? They're totally out of view.
They get around and they try to release Susan and the Doctor, and they somehow get them out. And then Barbara just throws a rock that she brought with her at a Dalek and gets its attention. And then everyone's, like, moving while that Dalek has that attention. There's, like, a ballet fight where they're, like, grabbing on to the Daleks and they're spinning around and all this stuff, and it's very choreographed.
Very.
Then they wind up knocking out the source of power for the Daleks. But somehow it's possible for them to move still, which I didn't understand because there was this whole thing about how Ian couldn't be moved. He couldn't even get his helmet off because the floor was demagnetized and the suit had no power. But they go, hey, the floor has no power, look. And Ian literally kicks one of the Daleks and it just, like, flies across the screen on skateboard wheels. And I'm just like, why?
Well, you know.
The continuity!
What's continuity?
You want me to get the definition of continuity? Because I will.
Let me tell you, Doctor Who throws out the definition of continuity quite a bit.
Yeah. So, they get their fluid thing back. I believe they disarm the bomb, too, or they just leave it? I think they just leave it.
I believe they kick a Dalek into it.
But it doesn't blow up or anything.
Yes, it does. It disables it and blows it up, kind of.
But it was a...
It was a neutron bomb, dear. And it actually, it wasn't really a bomb. It was just... Because remember, they were like, actually, we're not going to be able to build a bomb in time. Let's just flood everything with radiation instead.
Yeah, that's the plan, because they found out they need radiation, and radiation helped the Daleks to stop dying.
Yes.
Which I think I skipped over my notes, but who gives a fuck?
I think quite a few people give a fuck, dear.
Listen, I'm not a freaking Whovian.
I hate that term so fucking
I know you
much.
Do. So they get the fluid thing back, they all head back to the ship, and at one point they're all just talking, hanging out. Someone asks the Doctor where he comes from. I'd like to point this out. This kind of felt hilarious to me. He asks him where he comes from. He's like, I don't know much about you, but you know so much about us. And he just, like, avoids the question entirely.
Yep.
It's great. And the Doctor goes, well, my truth is in the stars, and your truth is in your planet, so bye! And Susan is just being a stupid idiot. Like, she's trying to act like she's way younger than 15. Like, she sometimes tries to come off like as an 8-year-old, and it's kind of jarring. And then, haha, hijinks ensue. People are being funny. And we cut to Barbara and Thaumaturgy, like, wanting to make out. And, yes.
Yes.
And they're behind the TARDIS, and Susan just, like, comes around the curve, like, are you ready to go, Barbara? And just absolutely cockblocks her. But she gets a hand kiss, but then she kisses Galateus back. And it's so lewd for the 60s. Wow.
Not really. It's between white people, so it's fine.
Yeah, I know.
It's a heterosexual white kiss. It's fine.
Yes. And then the TARDIS whooshes away. And at this point, I noticed that, like, they don't need to prepare for the ship moving at all, unlike in the first episode where they literally were knocked to the ground when it started time traveling.
Well, they've gotten used to it. They're shock absorbers.
Uh-huh. And then suddenly there's a flash and an explosion, and we're on the edge of destruction! Whoa! And I'd like to point out, Ian specifically fell in a chair, like, very perfectly, and it was hilarious. I love watching him.
Do you think it might
be? It's so good.
Do you think he might have done it on purpose? Do you think there was a reason? Do you think he did something?
Oh! I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, that could be the plot
Ian
of the
becomes
next episode.
If Ian becomes the villain, like, hell yeah.
This is the 60s. Do you really think they'll turn the middle-aged...
the male white protagonist.
The middle-aged, good, prim, proper teacher man into a villain?
No.
He's too white.
Yes.
But, yes. So, how do you like this one compared to the previous? Compared to Caveman Politics?
It was too long. Honestly, I think that's my only complaint. If it was squished down into the 4 episodes like Caveman Politics was, I don't think I would have minded it.
Yeah.
Like, in all honesty, I don't think it was that bad. It was just long. Like, the parts that I had a problem with were pointless to drag things out. The cave scene, the argument of we should make these random people fight for us for no reason because we're British. The just little things like that, like the counting down from 100. It's a lot.
If the counting down from 100 is going to get to you, oh god, there's a lot of things in Doctor Who that are going to get to you then. Because if there's one thing Doctor Who loves, it's a long countdown.
It's more so that, like, it's more so that it was stretched out. I don't mind the countdown in itself, but it was the fact that it was stretched out to the 7-episode thing, and that just made it feel like it was dragging on even more.
Yeah. So, I'm just sort of looking ahead to see how long the rest of the episodes are, because I've kind of forgotten. A lot of them are 6 episodes long. That tends to be the normal, around about 6 episodes. It evens out after a while to be 4 episodes per story.
How long is that going to take to get there?
Honestly, not that long. It's like episode... Oh, well... It's like episode 12, but we skip a few because a few episodes are lost, and then, like... Okay, so here's the problem. We're basically going to have to skip nearly an entire season, because it's nearly all missing, but we'll get to episodes in between, and you'll go, wait, who's that? And I'll go, okay, so this is what happened.
Oh boy. That sounds fun.
It's great. And then, there's a lot coming up. The thing is, the longer episodes, they get better with them with time. Like, by the time you get to the second Doctor, the, like, 7-part episodes or 8-part episodes, they're a lot more manageable because, like, there's still some fat in there, but it's more manageable, and
It's
it's more
it's
like
chewable fat.
it's chewable fat. It's not people jumping across a cave for 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. What? Like, you have to be on my side with me in this.
Oh, I
Like,
absolutely am. Like, that's why I say, like,
okay,
this would
thank
be
you.
a go-to classic episode that I would be like, watch this instantly. If it wasn't 7 parts long, if it
What
was
if
4 parts, it would be perfect.
what if you edit it down?
I mean, I could. I don't want to.
Well, no, I know, but I'm saying, like, what if that's just something you did? Like, if you felt like sharing it with other people, and you're like, just cut out the cave scene up until person dies in it, right? Cut out arguments and things, and just be like, we should talk to them, and then Ian just goes to talk to them, for example. There's no argument.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, but there's a lot of episodes that have to do that with.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so do you still want to give these a number out of 10 or something, or I don't
Sure.
really mind if you don't want to. You would want to do that.
$1 to $10? Sure.
$1 cutout to $10 cutouts.
Do you feel like you have an army of Daleks behind you, or are they a single cutout?
I think you gave... What did you give the last one?
Like a 4?
I thought you gave it like a 6.
No, I gave it a 4.
Okay, well, what would you give this one then?
Because I was a little bit less than neutral. I would actually give this one maybe like a 6 or 7.
That makes sense.
Because like I said, if we edited it down and just took out the parts that aren't tolerable, like the long drawn out parts, it'd be a really good episode.
Yeah, it genuinely, it would genuinely be like, when I recommend people watch like random episodes of Doctor Who, I never recommend, I barely recommend anything from the 60s, because all the really good episodes are like, oh, it's really good. It's like 2 hours long, but it's really good.
It's like the freaking video games that people are like, you have to play like 30 hours in, but then it gets good. Like, there's only one situation that's ever worked, and that was Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that is not something you do.
And
you don't
Doctor
play
Who
30
isn't
hours
exactly Death Stranding.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, the next episode, Edge of Destruction.
Holy crap. Could you imagine Kojima working on Doctor Who?
No joke, I would actually probably love that.
I mean, I feel like I would love that too.
For a lot of reasons. Anyway, the next episode, Edge of Destruction, it's psychological, it's not very smart,
That's fine.
Very dumb, but we've got a lot to say about it, trust me. Okay, so, yeah, fuck, how do we end this again?
Bye.
I
don't remember. Bye.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
Are we done?
Yes, we're done.